All right, so today we're going to tackle a question that's, just as important as taking civic action in the first place. What happens after all the work is done? How do we look back, learn, and grow with a bit of humility? Instead of just stamping a big success or failure label on everything. Let's dive in. So think about it. You've poured your heart and soul into a cause. You organized, you served, you showed up for your community. The project wraps up, and then what? That big question mark. How do you actually make sense of what just happened? Because this moment, right here, is where the real learning is supposed to happen. But honestly, it's also a path that's just full of hidden traps. And this really gets to the heart of it. If you do evaluation the wrong way, you end up in one of two places, and neither is good. You're either on this mountain of pride, thinking you're a genius, or you're in the pit of despair, feeling like a complete failure. But there's a third path, right? And that's our goal. Because when evaluation is done well, it doesn't just create a report, it creates wisdom. Okay, so let's dig into these two traps for a second, because they are so common and honestly pretty dangerous. On the surface, pride and despair, they look like polar opposites, right? One's up, one's down. But what's really fascinating is that they actually come from the very same place. Just listen to the things we tell ourselves. Pride says, "This worked because of me. Any criticism is an attack on me." But then look over at discouragement. It's the exact same logic, just flipped upside down. Nothing changed, so I'm a failure. See, both are totally self-centered. One pumps up the ego, the other demolishes it, but in the end, they both make it impossible to see what actually happened. And here's the bottom line. It doesn't matter if you're on that mountaintop of pride or in the pit of despair, the result is exactly the same. That door to learning just slams shut. Pride tells you, hey, I've got nothing to learn here, I'm awesome. And despair whispers, there's nothing worth learning. This was pointless. Either way, you're completely stuck. Okay, so if pride and despair are the traps, how do we avoid them? What does a healthier, more faithful way of looking at our work actually look like? Well, that's exactly where we're going next. The central idea here is something called teachability. And I really love that this definition kicks off with the word courage. Because let's be real, it takes actual courage to look at what happened with open eyes, to celebrate what went well without letting it go to your head, and to look at what didn't go well without getting totally crushed. And this just completely changes the game, doesn't it? The goal of valuation suddenly isn't about proving you were right or, building a resume of your successes. It's about becoming a wiser, more effective steward of freedom in your community. The goal isn't the win, it's the stewardship. So what does this teachability thing actually look like day to day? Well, it really boils down to the kinds of questions you ask yourself. It's all about swapping out those old, unhelpful questions for ones that are a whole lot wiser. And let's be honest for a second. These are our go-to questions, aren't they? They're all about getting that pat on the back. Did we win? Did our numbers grow? Did people notice us? Asking these kinds of questions, well, it's like buying a one-way ticket straight to the land of pride or the pits of despair. Now, just compare those to these questions. You can feel the shift, right? The focus isn't on the scoreboard anymore, it's on the integrity of how we did the work. Did we build real trust? Did we treat everyone with dignity? Did we respect our own limits? And maybe the biggest one of all, did we actually learn something true from all this? This is such a powerful idea. Basically what it's saying is, if you want to see good things happen, the fruit, you have to focus on doing the work in a good way, the faithfulness, first. It's like farming. You can't expect a great harvest if you plant junk seeds. The quality of your process is what makes any lasting good result even possible. But what about when things just don't work out? I mean, it's one thing to ask these wise questions when you feel like you're winning. The real test, though, is when you're looking at something that feels a whole lot like failure. And look, it's a super frustrating fact of life that sometimes you can do everything right and still not get the result you were hoping for. And there are so many reasons why. Maybe the need was way deeper than you realized. Maybe building trust just takes a lot longer than you thought. The key is to see these not as excuses, but as the real, messy complexities of doing important work. And this, right here, this is probably the biggest mental shift we have to make. A setback is not a failure. It's not a final verdict from a judge declaring you're no good. It is simply information. That's it. It's a teacher. And the second you start seeing it that way, it loses all its power to discourage you. Instead, it becomes this incredible source of wisdom.
So, why does this personal discipline, this teachability, matter for the bigger picture? Well, because free societies don't stick around because they're perfect. They survive because their citizens learn and adapt faster than their problems can multiply. That's the race we're all in. We have to make sure our learning curve is always steeper than the problem curve.
So at the end of the day, this whole thing isn't just about making our civic projects better. It's about making us better. Really knowing yourself. Knowing that, yeah, you have a tendency to get puffed up with pride or that you get discouraged really easily. That kind of self-knowledge is one of the greatest gifts you can bring to your community. So let's leave it with this one final, really fundamental question. Just for a minute, forget about whether the project succeeded or failed. Ask yourself this: what did this experience teach me about me? Answering that question with real honesty, well, that's the heart of teachability. And that's how we turn every single thing we do, win or lose, into the wisdom we need to be better stewards of freedom.